Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So we have a new game that gets sort of announced out of nowhere from Nintendo, and we also have a look at some gameplay for the Cowabunga Collection. We have those topics and more to cover, but before we get started, if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so we can keep you up to date with all the latest gaming news. Now let's get started. So yesterday morning, Nintendo dropped a new Kirby game, and it's called Kirby's Dream Buffet. And there really wasn't a whole lot of fanfare leading up to this, but over on the eShop store, it's got a description. It says, roll through a smorgasbord of food-themed stages in 4 rounds of 4-player fun as Kirby, who seems rounder than usual. Race through delicious obstacle courses to collect strawberries as Kirby grows. Then turn the tides in the final round, a fruity flight atop a floating platform. Now on the asterisk here for 4-player, it does say that additional games and systems required for multiplayer mode. So it doesn't look like this game is going to have couch co-op. And this appears to be sort of a Fall Guys-ish type game from what I can tell. And right now for the release date, all we have is summer 2022. And Nintendo did confirm that there's not going to be a physical release of this game, at least it's not in the plans right now, but you would be able to pick up a digital code at retailers. So now all we really need to know is how much is the game going to be. It seems fairly simple, so I can't imagine it being too expensive. And I have to wonder, would they actually have this game as a free-to-play, but then once I saw that they were going to have download codes available at retailers, they're obviously going to charge something. So I imagine this will probably be in maybe the $20 range, possibly $30. But once it drops, you'll have to check it out and let me know what you think of it. Next, we have some actual gameplay footage from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Cowabunga Collection. And this comes from PS Underground, and they're teaming up with Konami and Digital Eclipse. And this is a collection of boss battles against Bebop and Rocksteady. And at the beginning of this, you do get a glimpse at the menu where you do see a list of games to go through, and there's a button here to change regions, so that's the way you'll be able to play maybe the Japanese versions of some of these games. And it also has an option here for enhancements, so I'm wondering if that might be like, say, a CRT filter or something. Now there's another option down there that says watch, and I'm not sure what this means, but it might have to do with maybe some footage from developers. In the original press release for this game, it did say something about historic TMNT content, so hopefully there's some videos in there. Now in this footage we have gameplay from the original TMNT on the NES, and I must say this looks really good. You don't seem to have a lot of flickering like you did when the game was on the NES. And then they have the original arcade game, and then we have TMNT 2, the arcade game, which was out on the NES. And then we get 2 of the Game Boy games. We get Fall of the Foot Clan, and then Back from the Sewers. And then we see the Manhattan Project, followed by TMNT 4, Turtles in Time, from the Super Nintendo. And then we get a glimpse of Hyperstone Heist from the Genesis, and then the last one they show in this footage is Turtles in Time, which was the arcade version. But then over on the official Konami channel, we get a little teaser video, and at the end of this it says, see you at San Diego Comic-Con 2022 with radical news. So the San Diego Comic-Con is July 21st through the 24th. And I can only speculate as to what this radical news is. My hopes is that we'll at least get a release date for this collection. Considering they've been taking pre-orders for a while, I'm hoping we'll see it get released fairly soon. But I have a link to the original video here with all that gameplay footage if you want to see more of it. And I think this collection's looking really good, and I'm looking forward to seeing what type of special features they put in this. Next, we have another game that looks like we may see a release pretty soon, We hadn't heard a whole lot from Bayonetta 3. We know it's supposed to get released sometime this year. Well, it looks like it's been rated by the ESRB, and you can see this on the official Nintendo store that it did get an M for mature rating, which is what we expect. But just the fact that the game has been rated tells me that it's pretty much in the final stages. They can't make a whole lot of changes to the game after it gets rated, or it has to be re-rated. So it does look like we're getting probably close to that October release that many people were speculating for. And this is one I'm looking forward to, although I probably need to finish Bayonetta 2 before I pick this up. Next, we saw the sequel for Final Fantasy VII Remake get announced recently, and that was Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And it was announced only for the PS5. Well, we have this headline here from VGC. Square Enix says Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is PS5 exclusive because of the SSD speed. Now, in an interview with the Japanese publication Gamer, Rebirth producer Kitase gave several reasons for not releasing the game for the PS4. It's exclusive to PlayStation 5 because the graphical quality, of course, as well as an SSD access speed. Since the adventure unfolds in a vast world after the escape from Midgar, loading stress is an extreme bottleneck. We felt we needed the specifications of PlayStation 5 to overcome that and travel the world comfortably. Now, for anybody that played the original Final Fantasy VII, you know after you get out of Midgar, you get open to the complete world, and I don't know if they're going to give that same effect in this remake. Now, I would imagine that the Xbox Series systems would also fit this requirement, but since Remake was an exclusive deal for PS4, I imagine it's going to be the same thing now for Rebirth. And I'm sure eventually a PC version will come out, but I have to wonder what minimum specs it would have to have, especially say for the SSD. If I interpret what Kitase said here correctly, it seems like the game is going to be relying on being able to pull the game data very quickly to be able to load the environments on the fly. So while it's a bummer for people who still only have a PS4, hopefully by the time this gets released next winter, people will be able to pick up a PS5 that want to play this game. And then finally, Nintendo has an interesting, I guess you would say, hot take when it comes to the Switch. During this past week, it's been about 95 degrees for a high in Japan, and they had this tweet come out here, and I'll be reading the translated version at the bottom, so it might sound a little choppy. If you use the Nintendo Switch in a hot place, the temperature of the main unit may become high. Please use it in a place from 5 to 35 degrees Celsius. Also, if the intake and exhaust ports are blocked, the temperature of the main unit may rise. Make the air around the intake and exhaust ports better. If the temperature of the main unit becomes too high, it may sleep automatically to protect the main unit. When playing in TV mode, install the Nintendo Switch dock in a location that does not retain heat. If there is foreign matter or dust on the air intake or exhaust ports of the main unit, remove it with a vacuum cleaner. Now, most of this is pretty good advice, but I wouldn't use a vacuum cleaner with electronics. This is probably a translation issue. You really want to use something like compressed air or an air compressor to blow the dust out. Using a vacuum can cause a lot of static and could fry your unit. But I thought all of this was a really good reminder that if you're playing the Switch, say in your lap, make sure those vents aren't covered. And if you have it in a dock, make sure you have it in an area where air can flow. And that's all we have for today. Did anything we cover catch your attention? Are you looking forward to that Cowabunga Collection as much as I am? I'm really wanting to replay some of those NES games with that rewind feature. And were you surprised at all that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is only going to be on the PS5 and not available for PS4? Drop a comment about those topics or anything else we covered today. I want to thank you for watching and be good.